Okay, today we're going to talk about the people that we mistyped. Dun 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 dun. Oh, it sounds like such a clickbait title. Okay, so we're going to talk about all the people that we thought were a certain type before we learned micro expressions, and how later, whether it was through visual typing or just because we talked to them more and understood them more, we realized that, oh, they're actually another type. We're going to analyze why we thought they were the types that they were and try to knock down some stereotypes. The first one that I will discuss is my mom, who I thought was INFJ, and actually she is an ESFJ. This was way back when I first discovered MBTI. So I was doing that whole binary, like is she I or E, instead of doing the kind of functions or visual typing. And miraculously, I got the 3 correct. But for N versus S, I was thinking in a really stereotypical fashion. I thought my mom is like really smart. She was the CEO of a pharmaceuticals company, and she used to be a doctor. So I was like, oh my gosh, all these things must be intuitive. I remember this. Oh, it's so bad now, but I remember this conversation that we had where I try to explain to her what sensing is, and I make fun of people who have a conversation where it's like, oh, on Tuesday I went to the store. Oh wait, was it Wednesday? No, actually, no, it was Tuesday. No, it was Thursday. So we were both making fun of that conversation style, which I was relating to sensors because I didn't really understand. That was an unfortunate stereotype about sensors, right? So we both had a laugh about that, but then later on, later on I realized that she has SI and EI movement, and I started breaking down every other part of her life, even her aesthetic choices, which later I thought was, earlier I thought it was SE because she's really into luxury items and stuff, so I was thinking, luxury is SE, it's just the physical experience, but then I realized, oh, that could also be just a good association with certain designer brands, for example. I just looked deeper into her cognition, and just SI and E work out a lot more. So yeah, it's really important to figure out the axis and not just the binary of are you a sensor or intuitive, because everyone is both.
My mom is also ESFJ. And I typed her so early. She's probably the first person I typed after I typed myself. So yeah, again, I went through the binary thing with her, and we got to INFP. And then she's a literature teacher.
Mine was a bit closer, so I'm kidding.
And she's a literature teacher, right? So you go under INFP and it's ooh, they're all writers. So I was like, oh wow, perfect fit. That makes sense. And then later, I guess I kind of started to understand the cognitive functions more. And it was apparent that she was on the SI and E axis, because I remember describing to her the difference between real life physical SE data versus that associative symbolic SI data. And we had this one example of how I really hate wool. She always tried to buy me wool hats and wool mitts because to her, she really liked it. But to me, it's physically scratchy and irritating. So for me, it's just the SE experience of it is really disturbing. And I don't like it. But for her, she's yeah, I understand that the wool is scratchy, but to me it symbolizes this idyllic farm where there's little sheep walking and munching on the grass, and every time I wear my wool I think of this picture perfect little sheep farm somewhere in the mountains. And I'm oh my gosh, okay, that's so SI. And she's so yeah, I feel the physical sensation, but that association kind of overpowers the discomfort because I get so much enjoyment about thinking of that association.
I'm just trying not to laugh, because meanwhile the INFP is oh, I don't even feel these sensations in the first place. And meanwhile I'm just well, logically I know wool is scratchy, but 90% of the time I don't notice it.
Oh, that's so funny. So anyway, so that made sense. So that kind of maybe further reinforced oh, she's an INFP because she's on that axis. But then yeah, later when we got into visual typing and stuff, and also just when we had disagreements, it kind of more fit with miscommunications between an FI and an FE user, and that's what kind of sparked me off. I was oh, she's actually communicating in a really FE way right now, and maybe that's why we're having this disagreement. Maybe she's not INFP.
But also, okay, maybe you live with her, so it's kind of you're used to it, but also one of the things that set this off was I visited you.
Yeah.
I met I guess I met her before, but I met her after I learned so much about MBTI. And man, she was so affected by me. I was whoa, I usually don't feel my own presence because I'm an INFP, I'm like la la la. But I felt my own presence so much because I could see that she was just reacting to me.
Right.
And I could just see her emotional waves towards me and not know how to handle it. I was like, guy, FE user, FE. So many extroverted feelings like being flung.
Yeah. And that's afterwards. Afterwards I realized like, whoa, she kind of definitely affects the external environment. The way like that, any, I guess, JE, like TE or FE Dom will, but definitely in
Nice
that
gestures.
emotional way. Yes. And she definitely kind of like evaluates the external environment a lot and makes kind of judgments based on these sort of like interrelational things happening at work or just like the social environment a lot. Like she's very aware of that and she kind of really has very clear opinions on that too. Like very much a J lead in that sense.
Nice person, let's talk about my new manager at work who... Okay, I guess this was after micro-expressions. So, like, obviously, like, when you're doing a job interview, you want to just stare into... Actually, it might have helped me. Guys, I might have done okay at my job interview because I was, like, staring into his eyes trying to figure out his micro-expressions. But based on that, I was like, okay, he's either, like, an INTJ or... SFP, because for a lot of times for men it's kind of hard to tell J versus P body language upon first glance because especially in a professional setting they might move less. But anyway, I thought he was like ENTJ at first because just of everything that he would say, like he tries to present himself as a very like TE heavy person. But then later I found out he's like ESFP upon just witnessing the emotional like reactivity and all that stuff. Yeah, here I think it's really common. It's like a really common mistype when you take people for their word because people are obsessed with their shadow self. They try to present themselves as like this kind of thing. Like I think usually at work I present myself as like strong, but I think actually interestingly I think there is an ENTJ guy at work and I thought he was like ESFP at first because he's so silly. He like just doesn't care. He's so laid back. And now I think he's ENTJ. But anyway, the manager is so like the things that he says, he literally just walks in the room and is like, is everyone working hard? We better be working hard. No, it's just like so tertiary TE because if you know like a true TE dominant, they're not really going to be all flashy about their TE and I. It's just going to be running. It's not going to be like super expressive in that sense. So I think his expression was way more FI, like, oh, let me make this known, my values of hard work.
I feel like I have to kind of push myself to make it known about like my FI SE side, but
yeah. Oh my gosh, it's definitely always a struggle for me to like. I feel like when I enter a foreign situation, I'm always trying to prove to other people that I do have extroverted thinking. I think that's like what he's doing too.
Yeah, this is more recent too because this one is actually someone I knew from university. Initially, they said that they were an INTJ. In conversation, I noticed that they had an NI toggle, so I was like, okay, that kind of checks out. But then I noticed through speech that they were very much a J lead. Like they just made a lot of like judgment statements about things, like very kind of decisive or had that very strong opinion and like, no, this is this and that is that. And I was like, okay, so probably ENTJ. And I kind of just didn't really think much more beyond that. And it was kind of also in a group setting, so there's a bunch of other people. I wasn't really focusing on them that much. And then later, I met this person again and we kind of had a more in-depth conversation and I was like, whoa, SE speech pattern. Like they just moved from topic to topic like so quickly and definitely in that like kind of objective connection way. So it kind of like I could follow the train of thought. Like it made sense to me sharing that axis. And then I was like, okay, so then I was like maybe like more ISTP because they didn't really seem like ISFP and I was like trying to wait for the smile. Side note, it's like, it's really hard to type someone live actually. When you have someone like on a video and they're facing you and you can replay the smile over and over or like find 5 different smiles, it's so easy. But if it's like you catch one smile and you're like, oh, what is that? And you're like seeing it at an angle, it's kind of, but anyways, I was like, yeah, probably more FE and definitely J lead. So probably like actually ISTP.
No, that point is so true. Sometimes people ask me like, oh, what type am I? How come we don't know? We've been like working together for like 2 months. And it's like, well, first of all, if you talk and everyone interrupts you, like when someone's talking to a video camera, they never get interrupted. Their mind just unfurls. Anyway, the next and last person is someone that I met casually, and she knew a lot about MBTI, and she said that she's ENFP. So like when someone knows a lot and can talk about the cognitive functions with accuracy, you tend to just trust them with their self-evaluation. So I was like, okay, yeah, you bubbly, you talk a lot, you ENFP. But then see, it's the micro expressions thing again. I was like, oh no, I think she has an FE smile. What is this? And then just the more I knew her, the more I was like, oh yeah, actually her behaviors and statements do coincide more with the ESFJ actually. And I think she just has like a strong tertiary in E that she mistook for like dominant in E. And here, this mistyping is interesting because I think people who know a lot about MBTI are still suspect to this, because here what happened was that although she understands FI and FE, her dominant FE was like so strong that it became subconscious, so she was like subconsciously good at it. So she never thinks that she is using it because she's constantly using it subconsciously, which I can totally see happening with me and my FI.
Yeah, so one of my family members has an FE smile. So my initial thought was like, oh, probably a TP, because he kind of works more in like a TI kind of based environment, kind of more like engineering kind of thing. I don't know exactly what he does, but kind of somewhere in that area. So I was like, oh yeah, probably TP. And then somewhere in the back of my mind, being aware of what was happening, I was like, oh man, such J body language and such like strong FE effective emotionality. I was like, whoa, mind blown. He's totally an FA, sorry, an FJ, and probably even an FE dominant. I think the visual typing stuff definitely helps reveal your own biases to you. And unfortunately, we all have them because we all learned MBTI from...
While the world was like this.
Yeah, from such information that was like based on like stereotypical behavioral stuff that isn't necessarily the case all the time. So it's cool to kind of have your own perspective kind of blown in that sense. Yeah, so let us know if there's been any instances in your life where you kind of thought person was one type and now you're like, oh wait, maybe you're this type, or maybe they identify themselves as a certain type, but then you see them fitting to different cognitive functions more. Yeah, let us know. And if you guys want to be typed based on these objective measures that we've been doing, you can go to cognitive8.com and check us out there. And if you want to support this channel, check us out on Patreon as well, where we give exclusive perks. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Oh, you're so good at doing the outros. Oh, I'm so good at doing the intros. Yeah. Never change the system. So
yeah, I know.